The city pulsed with an electric hum, a sprawling labyrinth of steel and glass where progress and secrecy coexisted uneasily. In its heart, streaking through its arteries at impossible speeds, was the Pulse, a bullet train that was the envy of the world. To the public, it was a marvel of engineering. To those who knew better, it was a Pandora's box, rumored to carry secrets that could shatter the fragile order of the city. Alex sat alone in his cluttered workshop, the faint smell of oil and metal hanging in the air. His hands moved mechanically, repairing a small engine, but his mind was elsewhere. He couldn't shake the memory of his father, a man whose brilliance had built much of the city's transport infrastructure, and who had disappeared a decade ago under mysterious circumstances. The world moved on, but Alex never did. His father's shadow loomed large, a constant reminder of a legacy he didn't ask for but couldn't escape. A sharp knock on the door broke his reverie. When Alex opened it, there was no one there, just a small package resting on the step. Inside was a single sheet of paper, its contents typed in a sterile, mechanical font. "Your father's work is not finished. The Pulse holds the answer. Be there tonight. Platform 7. Midnight." Alex's heart pounded as he stared at the message. He wanted to throw it away, to dismiss it as some cruel joke, but he couldn't. The handwriting, meticulously scanned and reprinted, resembled his father's schematics, the kind he used to scribble late at night when inspiration struck. He knew better than to ignore it. As the city's lights blurred into streaks outside the window of his commuter train, Alex tried to quell the unease in his chest. He hadn't been near the Pulse since his father's disappearance, avoiding it like a bad memory. Now he was hurtling toward it, unsure if he was chasing closure or stepping into a trap. Platform 7 was eerily quiet when he arrived, save for the muted hum of machinery. The train was waiting, sleek and imposing, its reflective surface absorbing the dim light around it. A handful of passengers milled about, their faces obscured by hats, scarves, or shadows. Alex couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He stepped aboard, clutching the ticket that had come with a note. The interior of the train was unsettlingly pristine, the kind of sterile that felt more like an operating room than public transport. He took a seat near the back, his fingers brushing against something wedged between the cushions. It was a notebook, its leather cover worn and cracked. The moment Alex opened it, his breath caught in his throat. He recognized the handwriting instantly, his father's unmistakable scrawl. Diagrams filled the pages, interspersed with frantic notes. "Compromised. Do not trust them. Time is running out." Before Alex could process what he was seeing, the train lurched forward, its doors sealing shut with a hiss. The city receded into darkness as the Pulse accelerated, and Alex realized there was no turning back. The train glided through the night, its speed imperceptible but relentless. Alex clutched the notebook tightly, his pulse quickening with every passing second. He flipped through the pages, trying to make sense of the chaotic sketches and notes. There were blueprints of the train systems, some heavily annotated with warnings. Words like reactor, fail-safe, and destabilization leapt off the pages. Whatever his father had been involved in, it was far more dangerous than Alex had imagined. As he studied the notebook, he became aware of a figure moving toward him down the narrow aisle. The man was tall and sharp-featured, his eyes cold and calculating. He stopped a few seats away, pretending to adjust his coat, but Alex could feel his gaze lingering. Something about him screamed trouble. Alex tried to stay calm, slipping the notebook into his jacket. He decided to move, acting as though he were simply heading to another part of the train. As he walked, he noticed the other passengers, their faces obscured or buried in books and screens. But their stillness felt unnatural, as if they were waiting for something. Near the center of the train, Alex found a quiet corner and sat down. He took a deep breath, trying to assess his situation. The message, the notebook, the man watching him, none of it made sense. His father's disappearance had been shrouded in mystery, but now it felt like the pieces were finally coming together, even if they painted a picture Alex wasn't ready to see. The intercom crackled to life, a voice breaking the silence. "Attention passengers, we will be arriving at our next station in 30 minutes. Please remain seated for security checks. Security checks? That wasn't standard protocol. Alex's instincts told him this was no ordinary train ride. He scanned his surroundings, looking for an escape route, but there was nowhere to go. The train was a sealed capsule, hurtling through the darkness. The man from earlier appeared again, this time with two others. They moved methodically, speaking to passengers and flashing identification badges. Alex's stomach tightened as they approached. He stood abruptly and headed toward the rear of the train, keeping his head down. "Excuse me," a voice called behind him, sharp and authoritative. Alex didn't stop. He pushed through a door leading to the next car, his heart pounding. "You there? Stop." Alex broke into a run, his footsteps echoing in the narrow corridor. He reached another car and slipped into a storage compartment, crouching behind stacks of supplies. The voices grew louder, and Alex held his breath as the men passed by, their boots thudding against the floor. When the coast was clear, he pulled out the notebook again. A note scribbled in the margins caught his attention. "The reactor is the key. Without it, the system fails." He didn't fully understand the implications, but one thing was clear. Whatever this reactor was, it was critical to the train's operation. And if it fell into the wrong hands, the consequences could be catastrophic. Suddenly, the storage door creaked open. Alex spun around, ready to defend himself, but it was a woman, one of the passengers. She looked at him with a mix of fear and determination. "They're looking for you," she whispered. "But I can help." Alex hesitated, unsure if he could trust her. "Why would you?" "Because I know what this train is carrying," she said, her voice trembling. "And if we don't stop it, a lot of people are going to die." Alex's mind raced. He didn't know if she was telling the truth, but he didn't have many options. He nodded, and the woman pulled him deeper into the compartment, away from prying eyes. "Whatever you think you know," she said, "it's worse. Much worse." The dim light inside the storage compartment flickered as Alex and the woman huddled together. Her name was Sam, and she claimed to have been tracking the train's movements for months. She spoke in hushed tones, her eyes darting nervously toward the door. "This train isn't just a weapon," she began, clutching a tablet that displayed blueprints eerily similar to the ones in Alex's father's notebook. "It's a catalyst. The reactor on board is designed to destabilize the city's energy grid. Imagine blackouts everywhere, chaos in the streets. And while the city scrambles to recover, certain factions will profit." Alex's mind reeled. "You're saying someone's planning to sabotage the entire city?" Sam nodded grimly. "And your father, he tried to stop it. That's why he disappeared." The weight of her words hit Alex like a freight train. His father's absence had always felt like an unresolved wound, but now it was a piece of a much larger puzzle. He glanced at the notebook again, the cryptic notes suddenly taking on a deadly clarity. Before Alex could respond, the train jolted violently, throwing them both against the wall. A chilling realization dawned on him. They were out of time. Whatever was about to happen, it had already begun. "We need to get to the control room," Sam said, regaining her balance. "If we can shut down the reactor, we might still have a chance." Alex hesitated. "It's heavily guarded. I've already seen their security." Sam's eyes narrowed. "Then we'll have to be smarter than them." They moved swiftly through the train, keeping low and avoiding the patrols. Each car they passed seemed more ominous than the last. One was filled with passengers who sat unnervingly still, their eyes vacant. Another held crates stamped with symbols Alex didn't recognize, but Sam whispered, "Weapons-grade materials." Finally, they reached a heavy metal door marked "Restricted Access." Sam tapped furiously on her tablet, pulling up a makeshift blueprint. "The reactor's on the other side of this door. If we can disable its core, the train's entire system will shut down." Alex examined the lock panel. It wasn't something he could crack, but the notebook had a series of override codes scribbled in its margins. He keyed one in, his hand shaking, and the door hissed open. The control room was a stark contrast to the rest of the train, bright, cold, and buzzing with machinery. At its center was the reactor, a cylindrical device humming with an unsettling intensity. Alex could feel its power vibrating through the floor. Before they could act, a voice rang out behind them. "Well, well. Looks like the prodigal son found his way home." Alex turned to see Mr. Cross, the sharp-featured man who had been watching him earlier. He stood flanked by guards, a smirk playing on his lips. "Your father had the same look when he tried to stop me," Cross continued, stepping forward. Determined, but hopelessly naive. Alex clenched his fists. "You killed him, didn't you?" Cross shrugged. "He got in the way of progress. Just like you're about to." Before Alex could react, one of the guards lunged at him. He dodged, grabbing a wrench from a nearby table and using it to deflect the blow. Sam ducked behind the reactor, frantically working on her tablet. The fight was chaotic and brutal. Alex managed to disarm one guard, but Cross was no ordinary opponent. He moved with precision, every strike calculated to weaken Alex. "You can't stop it," Cross sneered. "The reactor's already reaching critical mass. Even if you disable it, the chain reaction has started." But Sam's voice cut through the tension. "Not if we isolate the core." Alex saw her inputting commands into the reactor's console, her fingers flying over the keys. Cross lunged toward her, but Alex intercepted him, slamming him against the wall. "You don't get to win," Alex growled, his grip tightening. With a final keystroke, Sam shouted, "It's done." The reactor's hum faded, replaced by a deafening silence. The train shuddered, its systems powering down one by one. Cross slumped to the floor, his smirk finally replaced by fury. "This isn't over," he spat. Alex ignored him, turning to Sam. "Is it stable?" "For now," she said, breathing heavily. "But we need to get out of here, before someone overrides my commands." As the train slowed to a halt, Alex knew they had only won a battle. The war was just beginning. The train came to a grinding halt, its sleek body settling into an eerie stillness. Alex and Sam stood in the reactor room, the tension still thick in the air. Alex glanced down at Cross, who sat slumped against the wall, his face a mask of cold defiance. "We need to move," Sam said, her voice urgent. "The authorities will be here soon, and I don't trust them to handle this." Alex hesitated, looking at the reactor one last time. The core had stabilized, but the notebook in his hand suggested this was only the tip of the iceberg. He could feel the weight of his father's work pressing down on him, the unanswered questions swirling in his mind. As they exited the train, the world outside was unnervingly calm. Emergency vehicles surrounded the platform, their flashing lights painting the scene in stark reds and blues. Officials in suits barked orders, corralling passengers into groups and questioning them. Sam tugged on Alex's sleeve, pulling him toward a maintenance exit. "We can't let them see us. If they know what we've done, we'll become targets." Alex nodded, his steps quickening. They slipped into the shadows, weaving through the maze of service tunnels beneath the station. The distant echoes of hurried voices faded as they moved deeper underground. When they finally stopped to catch their breath, Alex turned to Sam. "You said my father tried to stop them. What else do you know?" Sam hesitated, her expression guarded. "Not everything. But I know he uncovered a network, powerful people controlling the city from the shadows. The Pulse was just one piece of their plan." Alex clenched his fists, frustration bubbling to the surface. "And now they'll know we interfered. Cross won't let this go. Which is why we need to stay ahead of them," Sam replied, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. She held up her tablet, showing a series of files she had downloaded from the reactor systems. "This is just the beginning. There are more projects like this, and they're all connected. If we expose them, we might have a chance to stop it all." Alex looked at the files, their encrypted codes and diagrams sparking a sense of grim determination. His father's notes had hinted at a conspiracy, but seeing the scale of it laid bare made it impossible to ignore. As they emerged from the tunnels into the quiet streets, the first rays of dawn began to creep over the skyline. The city looked peaceful, unaware of how close it had come to disaster. Alex couldn't help but feel a pang of resentment. While the people slept, forces they couldn't imagine were playing with their lives. Sam broke the silence. "What now?" Alex took a deep breath, the weight of his decision settling on his shoulders. "We go after them. All of them. Whatever my father was fighting, I'm finishing it." She nodded, her resolve matching his. "Then we start here." She handed him a small flash drive. "Everything I've collected. Names, locations, operations. It's not complete, but it's a start."